Today we're going over the update 9.4 refines in Fire Emblem Heroes. This month we got new skills for Fernand, Miranda, Dedue, Erinys, and Duo Lyn and Florina. First up, Fernand is a heroic grilled lance kevlar with pretty high base attack. He then has below average speed and a higher defense focus with some extra points in HP. Fernand gets a new weapon called the Spear. The 60-mite lance enables Kanto 2. If initiating or a foe has above 75% HP, Fernand gets plus 5 total stats, true damage equal to 20% defense, and then a free follow-up attack. Pretty basic effects so far. I don't feel like the free-to-play units get Kanto too often, so that is a nice perk. For the refined part, every turn if above 25% HP, Fernand inflicts -7 attack and defense, discord, and stall on the closest foes and any foe within 2 spaces of that. For combat, if above 25% HP, Fernand gets another plus 5 stats, guard, and then he heals 7 HP after combat. Spear's most interesting trait is probably stall. A lot of Emblem Sigurd rings are just plus 1 movement skills going around, so stall can turn those effects back around on the user. Unfortunately, it won't affect Emblem Sigurd himself, but stall support is pretty rare. With the attack and defense debuffs, the true damage, and follow-up, Fernand can hopefully initiate on those stalled enemies first. You can then have Kanto to run away. Since he has Kanto, Fernand doesn't really need the new Blue Skies A skill, though you could use it. He also doesn't really need Alarm, so you're free to run Insight C skills. If you do have extra Emblem Ericas, then you can get Assault Force with Attack and Speed Insight home. I know Fernand is not the fastest, but we don't really have regular Insight Attack and Defense skills, so we take what we got. Now if you'd rather stick to stacking Attack and Defense, then Emblem Sigurd's Attack and Defense Excel plus Momentum Kit is tough to beat. Cooldown to help trigger Bonfire or No Quarter, and you can stack True Damage. Free follow-ups technically do stack, but any defensive no follow-up effect will cancel all of them out. For C skills, you can use Fatal Smoke, but otherwise be on the lookout for a future attack and defense inside home. For alterations, you can use Haze Slice for a possible instant trigger with momentum. It also gives unpierceable % damage reduction, which can combo with Excel's flat DR. Now if you want DR piercing, besides No Quarter, Assault Force is that option. It also neutralizes all debuffs and adds more true damage as well. Further skills, Fernand could use Brave Alphonse's kit. Fortifications is fun, Reopening's okay though Fernand has a follow-up, and then Breath of Life is good if you continue building defense. For B skills, you can run Flow Guard 4 for Scowl. There is also maybe a chance for Potent if you did want to invest in more speed. Gambit can work too, though be wary of full DR piercing. For attuned skills, Cavaliers finally got something new with Low Echo, fine option for buff neutralization. If you aren't super keen on Fernand's combat, but maybe just wanted access to stall, you could do a full support build. Fernand debuffs attack and defense and applies discord. You could give him a Rally plus Ruse setup, and then Insight Hone is a team buffing skill. You could also try the newer Detect B skills. Overall, Fernand does have some mobility related effects, but his combat is pretty standard in terms of free-to-play refines. It's a free follow-up, healing, and debuffs are good for general gameplay though. Now if you did want to dish out more damage, then stacking true damage skills with say Emblem Erica's Ring can spice things up. Good old Brave hits are always strong. Next, Miranda is a demote right infantry mage. She has okay attack, speed, and res stats across the board. Miranda's new weapon is the Tome of Fury, 14 might, and has the Raven Tome effect, aka Miranda now has weapon triangle advantage against colorless foes. If above 25% HP, Miranda gets plus 5 stats, true damage equal to 20% resistance, and then 7 flat damage reduction. So far, an interesting batch of effects. For the refine, every turn, if near an ally, Miranda gets plus 6 attack and res, low, and hexblade to herself and those allies. If initiating or near an ally, Miranda gets plus 5 stats, a free follow-up, and then heals 7 HP after combat. Tome of Fury is a mixed bag. Miranda offers a good selection of buffs with Low's buff neutralization and then Hexblade's adaptive damage. For her own combat, you get plus 10 stats, true damage, 7 flat DR, a follow-up, and some sustain. Miranda then gets an advantage against colorless foes. The weapon triangle has kind of been whatever for a while now. Unless we get Triangle Depth 4 in 2025, this is not really something we can focus on. Fallen Leon at least inflicted Triangle Depth onto enemies and then gave himself Cancel Affinity. That's a unique way to use the Raven Tome effect. Unfortunately, Miranda can't run those two skills without sacrificing a lot of other good things. It's fine, but a bit tough to build around. There is Maribel's refined, but outside her and Leon, the devs never really focused on abusing the weapon triangle effects more. One thing Miranda can do is try to tank better against colorless and her natural green enemies. Tome of Fury has some flat damage reduction, so we can combo that with Legu's friend. Miranda will get a decent amount of res to help with scaling, and this also gives her 40% resistance as true damage. Without slaying, you can run Flare to heal back up, plus you get the full DR piercing. Even with the Raven Tome effect though, I wouldn't expect Miranda to be tanking modern offensive colors, archers, and dagger units. If you did want to have a chance, you really want Emblem Ike's Ring for the unpierceable 40% DR. To ensure it's active, you're also going to need Time's Pulse. For A skills, you can use Finish 4, but for fun, there is also Close Bonus Doubler. Again, low base defense mage against melee physical foes. Not ideal, but you can run it for just general PvE content. For their playstyles, Miranda can stack flat resistance and try to be a debuffer with Ploy, Discord, or Sabotage skills. With Pulse Up Ploy, you can charge special every turn and have a backup pocket nuke if the fight goes long enough. Miranda does have her own buffs, so this isn't a bad option for Tome of Fury. Now if you either use Miranda's OK speed stat, then you can go for the more typical offensive skills, Magic No Follow or Tempo 4 for the partial DR piercing, you got Flash Sparrow or Pledge for cooldown, you get in stack Times Pulse skills and run Special Sparrow. There is also Remote A skills or Fleeting Echo for some % DR to stack with Tome of Fury's flat DR. If you want a tankier red mage, we just got Jeddah, highest defense mage in the game with still good base res. Miranda can try to tank hits, but her flat DR and healing may not be that useful without heavy support. Something Miranda can be good at is in a mage versus mage matchup, you stack resistance to tank their hits and then you abuse Hexblade to target the enemy mage's bad defense stat. You can try to utilize the new Raven Tome effect, but I don't think anyone is running Triangle Depth as a skill these days. Maybe something to keep an eye on for the future, but the weapon Triangle has had very little focus, so not the best effect to just throw in or refine. Next up, Dedue is a pretty typical high defense axe armor unit. He gets a cool new weapon, though sadly one of its best effects is also on a unit everyone just got for free. Taciturn Axe is a 60-might weapon. If within 3 spaces of an ally, Dedue inflicts -6 attack and defense and heals 7 HP after combat. Dedue will get true damage and flat damage reduction equal to X% of his defense stat. If Dedue is within 3 spaces of his support partner, X is going to be 30%. Otherwise, he needs to be near the highest attack ally on the team and X would be 20%. Very simple weapon so far. Dedue wants to stay near one ally, whether it's his support partner or the highest attack ally. For a save your armor, should be pretty easy. 30% defense's true damage / flat DR is pretty high, so very nice base effect. For the refine, after he acts or at the start of enemy phase activates defense, Dedue applies Divine Vein Stone around a 2-space area for 1 turn. If the foe initiates or has high HP, Dedue inflicts attack and defense debuffs equal to 6 plus 10% of his flat defense stat. He also neutralizes his own stat penalties. Overall, Taciturn Axe turns Dedue into a stone terrain support that's an extra +6 defensive res, 10 flat DR against specials, and then 50% DR against AoE specials. It's a really good effect to add to tanking. This is a rare thing to see in a refine, but unfortunately, everyone just got attuned Hector, who does the same thing and is almost certainly the better unit. Relatively speaking though, Dedue should be fine as an armor unit. He is simply going to stack a ton of defense and inflict a bunch of attack debuffs while getting flat DR. You just need to be near his support partner or your high attack teammate. Since Dedue neutralizes his own debuffs, you don't want to use Slick Fighter. Well, Hector has Wily Fighter 4, so you can borrow that for another 20% defense's true damage and flat damage reduction. This will give Dedue 50% defense scaling for both of those, plus you get a follow up and neutralize the enemy's field boss. The only bad thing is that the rest of Hector's kit is kind of made for far saving. Dedue can far save, but again, I would just use Hector for that job. Dedue's base kit is a sturdy stance plus near save setup. That is fine with Wily Fighter 4. If you upgrade to Twin Near Save, you can double trigger Armored Blazes 40% DR. This is ideal to combo with all of Dedue's flat damage reduction. You can get Attack and Defense Twin Near Save and Armored Blaze via Yahtzee. She also has Earthfire Boost 3, which is kind of just an upgrade over his sturdy stance. As an extra note, we are getting more tier 4 boost A skills, something to keep an eye on. Now for alterations, Dedue can use the Wily Fighter Sacred Seal. You can run Reopening for true damage and flat DR, but Wily Fighter 4 is almost a strict upgrade. Another way to neutralize field boss is Close Defense 4. You can run that with say Weaving Fighter or Vengeful Fighter. If you go for the Shield Fighter setup, Dedue has to run Escutcheon or Sacred Cow even with Emblem Mart. To use Pavis or Aegis, you could pair him with Elamine with her remix or someone like the Duo Lyn. For other skills, you can run Briar Save for extra counterattack damage. There is only a Far Save version so far. You could, however, use Far Save with Fortifications. Since Dedue sets up Stone Terrain, he's going to get the distant counter effect. It's very nice if you just want a generalist DC armor. Overall, Dedue gets a good refine, but even with his really neat Divine Vein effect, it's tough to beat out the premium 5-star armors, and it doesn't help one of those premium armors is now in everyone's hands. Regardless, if you want a physical damage wall, Dedue will do just fine. Our fourth refine goes to Erinys, Lance Flyer with good attack and speed, and boy did Erinys get a fun upgrade. Celeste Frost got a lot of changes, 16-might Lance with +3 attack, and Erinys now gets Conto 2. If initiating or the foe has over half HP, Erinys gets +6 attack and speed and 5 defense and res. She gets 7 flat DR against first attacks and has fun of follow-up. Last, if within 4 spaces of her support partner, Erinys gets Brave Attacks. If there is no support on the team, then it's 4 spaces of the highest speed ally. Celeste Frost added Kanto, flat DR with bonus defense and res, and no follow-up, all great stuff. Previously, Erinys had a Brave effect if within 2 spaces of her support partner. That range is now double, and it can work with the high speed ally as well. This is kind of like a variation on the triangle attack, but I guess Erinys enjoys lines more. Now, unlike Dedue, who can use the Savior to easily trigger his higher defense scaling, Erinys may require more planning to activate her Brave attacks when initiating. 4 spaces is generous, but the target ally has to be somewhat nearby. With that being said, Erinys now gets Brave hits on the enemy phase as well. She can put those extra defensive perks to use and then hit back twice. To improve her Brave hits, the Refined states at start of either phase, if near an ally, Erinys gives +6 attack and speed, Breath type cooldown, and then dodge to herself and those allies. If within 3 spaces of an ally, Erinys gets bonus stats equal to 5 plus 10% of her flat speed. She also deals 20% speed as true damage. The Refine provides buffing support, and Breath type cooldown with Brave hits is really good. Erinys also gets dodged %DR to use with her flat DR. Now, do note that the Brave attack effect has a 4 space range for Erinys' support partner or high speed ally, but for the full power of Celeste Frost, you have to be within 3 spaces. Still workable, and you don't need 2 allies, but Erinys still kind of plays like a triangle attack Pegasus Knight. She isn't a full player phase only threat though, since you can get those Brave hits on the enemy phase too. For builds, Erinys' Refine came at a great time if you want to give her premium skills. On the new Kids banner, Young Camilla introduces Trample. You can get up to 10 attack and speed with 5 true damage against infantry or armors, and this also works if a Divine Vein is nearby. In addition, Trample has built-in Desperation. Desperation plus high speed no follow-up unit plus Brave hits equals instant quad attacks. Erinys will work nicely with aerial maneuvers, Dive Bomb, or Desperation 4, but Trample seems really strong for a pure damage setup. You can pair it with either Assault Force or Speed Taker for 40% speed as true damage. The former has 50% piercing while the later has no guard. Both are good effects. For the C slot, you can use Deadly Miasma for low and debuffs, otherwise Erinys may just want Guidance 4 or Rain Snap to help allies move around. She needs her target ally to be nearby, so fly mobility skills will be great to have. You could use Endless Tempest for a self-restraint movement, but maybe you're already using Soaring Echo. Now Mercy Wing Echo can also be another good choice if Erinys' support partner is a low HP initiator. You could maybe run Pass if you do want to use Trample. Now let's say you aren't sold on Desperation Quads, it is risky due to Hardy Bearing. You can instead invest into more flat damage reduction with Excel, and then Potent can give 30% DR while possibly giving Erinys that 5th hit. For unpierceable DR, you can use Haze Slice. Haze Slice might be Erinys' best special since its own -1 instant cooldown, with her Breath type cooldown that allows her to trigger it on the second Brave hit. If Erinys tanks a counterattack, she can proc it a second time when doing her quad. Trample or aerial maneuvers is fun, but a Haze Slice Excel setup might be safer. You could also try to get Miracle going. Now if you really want to be safe, you could run Flow Guard 4 for Scowl, but not sure if that's worth the slot. It's also another player phase skill like Haze Slice. If you wanted a more mixed phase set, Trample plus Potent could be good. Heck, if Erinys can survive a hit, why not throw in Distant Counter for some fun? All in all, this is a rather good refine. Going from a pure player phase unit to having some support and mixed phase potential is good. I don't know how many people will be using Erinys, but if you want to invest, there are some very strong skills you can utilize right now. Last up is Duo Lyn and Florina. If you played 4 years ago, you have this unit because Linja was the winner of 2021's A Hero Rises event. Now, Duo Lyn is a really fun unit. She's a pure glass cannon, flying dagger, and her dual skill is basically a Gale Force-esque extra action. Tailwind Shuriken was already pretty good, but it's got some modern tools now. This Dynamite Dagger has Slaying and gives +6 flat attack and speed while inflicting -4 defense and res. If initiating, Lyn gets Brave attacks. If above 25% HP, she gets bonus attack and speed equal to the number of allies within 3 rows or 3 columns, times 2. You need 3 allies in range for +6 attack and speed. Last, Lyn has the feud effect, so she disables all support auras from affecting her main target. Tailwind Shuriken has added extra attack and speed, which is good, and then feuds a very strong effect if the enemy is stacking drive-based supports. Simple but solid upgrades. For the Refine, for foes within 3 rows or columns, Lyn inflicts -5 speed and defense. Her team gets 50% DR piercing on those guys, and those foes take a free follow-up. If above 25% HP, Lyn gets extra true damage equal to 20% speed. This Refine is essentially speed and defense crux, with the added effect of enemies losing 50% of their regular % damage reduction skills. If you have aggressive allies, Lyn can help out from long range, and she herself likes the extra follow-up with DR piercing. Relatively speaking, it's a pretty simple refine for Duo Lyn. She gets more firepower, feud, and crux support. Duo Lyn will play mostly the same as a squishy glass cannon brave attacker. There are a lot more interesting skills she can run now if you can obtain them. One of the strongest skills for Lyn is Active Lookout. It gives Contempt 2 and Desperation. Lyn can possibly quad instantly and get out without using her dual skill. Lookout also comes with its Distance Swap effect. It's a very fun C skill, and it means you don't need to use Desperation 4. In its place, we can run Speed Digger for stacking true damage and no guard. With that, Lyn could trigger lethality during her quad attack. Instead of the one big DR piercing special though, you can also use the low cooldown specials for possible double triggers. Instead of Speed Taker, you can use Full Disarm. That also gives no guard with some good debuffing. If you want that 5th hit, then Potent Disarm is an option. Both of these are nice with Active Lookout if you want to disarm traps in Aether Raids. Now for aid skills, Verge of Death allows Lyn to block panic and attack and speed debuffs at the start of the turn. You can also run Slice with Sparrow, but she already has the free follow-up. The 5 true damage is nice, but you're gonna need some statuses. For some other skills, Lyn has multiple Kanto options: Attack and Speed Mastery, Fartrace 4, Fartrace Echo. For other flyer mobility skills, you could use Air Orders to get charge and buff up your flyer team. Soaring Echo or Guidance 4 skills are good, and you can run self-warping skills such as Oath 4, Flyer Formation, or Aerobatics. Lyn has Speed and Defense Rain as her own C skill that can stack with her Refine's Crux debuffing, but you're going to need to get really close to help out your allies. If you want cooldown, you can run Heavy Blade. Daily Miasma or Flared Sparrow can deploy Divine Veins. You can use Flared Strike if you want, that's fine. Now, Fatal Smoke 4 continues to be useful for anti-healing and Miracle. One option is to run Lyn with Winter Water Sweep. She's not going to have as much killing power, but unlike Erinys, Lyn doesn't really have any defensive backup plan. Sometimes not dying is the better choice. We don't have a ton of DR piercing auras, so you can run Duo Lyn along with an ally who gives the 50% DR piercing status. That could be 75% piercing total. You can of course do the same with passive skills or weapons too. Overall, Duo Lyn gets some nice upgrades. A Slaying Brave Dagger can abuse some very powerful effects such as her own Emblem Ring or possibly a Miracle special setup. Daggers have a couple fun skills too, such as the Lookout Line. Lookout's Distance Swap plus Soaring Echo could create some really wacky plays. That'll be it for the update 9.4 refines. The free-to-play units got weapons that are about on par for the course. Dedue got a really nice niche despite Attuned Hector being free. Lyn didn't change drastically, but stuff like Feud is good to have. Erinys probably got the biggest improvement out of this batch. They typically aren't afraid to give the rarer retired 5 stars some spice to their refines because in general, less people are going to have the units built up. If you are an Erinys fan though, definitely should be very happy. Let me know your thoughts and share your own build ideas with everyone. Next up, we'll be talking about the Nor Kids banner. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.